Hey everybody, Jake here with TrendSpider to go over the weekend analysis into the third week of August. And we've got some interesting things going on. After quite a very volatile week, we do have some interesting things to look at on the weekly versus the daily. So I'll be going over SPY, the Qs, and XBI, starting with SPY. And you can see here something pretty interesting is happening. You can see there's been 3 separate times that the MACD has been under the zero line here. And we're getting close to the third time where the fast is possibly going to cross the slow. And that's something that I'm watching personally into next week. As just a personal trader, this is not advice buying or selling the SPY or any other stock that we talk about on here. But just showing you guys how I personally am going to use it into next week. Some of the things that I definitely want to watch for are, one, the price action breaking through this wedge. So, regardless of which way the price action really breaks, the lower indicators are what I really want to know about. So, is this going to be a possible fake out and then a continuation down? However, if we did, let's say, cross the MACD to the upside and then broke out of this wedge, that would be a nice confluence of breakout indicators for me personally. But everyone's going to have their own things here. But for me, what I want to see is I want to see the MACD cross above the zero line, the fast. I want the RSI to really break through 50. And then I want the percent range to really break through this previous high, which was around -38. So let's say -35. So what I can do here is I can go in, create a multi-factor alert, and essentially what I can do is say potential breakout for the alert. You can do it expires in 30 days, triggered one time. And so now what I'm looking for here is, let's put the EMA 50 on there as well on the daily, because this has been a really big area of resistance. So we already have an alert on here, so we don't necessarily need to put the EMA 50 in the alert. But what we can do here is now, we've got the alert on the actual indicator, but I want to know the lower indicator setups and when they're starting to break out. So I can go here, pretty much just have to redo this. Potential breakout expires in 30 days. And so now my first condition candle to break above the EMA 50. So that's already taken care of on the actual line, and I'll show you guys how to add an alert on any moving average here in a second. But in this case, I want the condition daily, and this is the indicator. I'm looking for the MACD fast to cross up through the constant level of 0. The next parameter that I'm looking for is I'm looking for that RSI to break through, let's say 55. So daily indicator RSI has crossed up through the constant level of, let's say, 55. And then my last indicator I was looking at, for me personally, I like to do a mix of the MACD, the RSI, and the percent range. Everyone's going to have their own condition set here, but in this case, it'd be the same thing. Indicator, where's the percent range? Here it is. Has crossed up through the constant level of, what do we say, -35. So when all of these conditions become true, or if they don't become true, either the alert's going to expire or I'm going to be alerted when all of these things happen at once. So it says all of the following, or let's say that you wanted just one of these to occur. You could also change this to any of the following. So in this case, I want all of these to occur for me to really get the alert. Created alert here. Now I will be alerted next week if these criteria occur through SMS and email, and I'll know, okay, maybe it's time to start looking at the price action closer. So all in all, on the weekly, we're all set up for next week. On the daily, we're all set up for next week. On the weekly, you can see here that's what's pretty interesting is we've got this perfect support 2 times here. I don't want to say it's perfect because we did kind of false break down and then rip through, but this is actually the weekly EMA 50, and if we overlay that on the daily chart, you'll see the same thing here, that the price action really respected this area here on the weekly, but then this is also the EMA 50. So you can really see how perfectly this range was within these 2 indicators. So all in all, we're getting very close to the apex of this wedge on the daily. We could possibly be in for a false breakdown here. However, if we do pull up, let's say, the percent range on the weekly, this is looking a little interesting. We've got support, support, and then a possible break, or it's not possible, it did break down. Is it going to continue, or is this a false breakdown and a pop-up next week? My guess is as good as yours, but I do know what I'm looking for to know when the status quo is changing. I know that I want to be alerted when the price action either breaks down through the weekly EMA 50 or breaks to the upside through the EMA 50 on the daily side. So things are set up on this side. We'll really have to see if this continues into next week. Into the Qs, which is our next ticker, we've got a pretty similar setup here. The price action didn't respect the EMA 50 necessarily like it did on SPY, but still you can see this area, this general area, honestly it hasn't really been that important for the Qs, and that's what's cool. Every moving average, you're not going to have the same thing on an individual chart. Some stocks are going to react better to other moving averages. In this case, the EMA 50 from the weekly was not something that the price was really respecting here. It seemed to be respecting more this general support area that we have in this kind of very slight ascending wedge that we have going on. So same thing, it looks very similar to SPY on the weekly side of things as well. We've got the breakdown here. We've got kind of a hold on the EMA 50. And we kind of reversed here, but then we're right at the same area, right below the SMA 20 on the weekly, but did not actually test this area below. So we'll have to see if this is a false breakdown on the MACD as well. You can also slightly see it on the percent range here, starting to tick down a little bit, but it's very slight. This could easily be a false breakout too. But this is why I create alerts, and this is why I have the system do the watching for me, because I don't have all day to stare at the chart and say, oh, this may happen in an hour. It may happen in an hour, but I don't have time to stare and watch the screen for an hour. But the system will do that for me on the back end, and that's where I really utilize these alerts. Going into the last ETF, broad market ETF of the video, we will look at XBI here. And so we've got some interesting things going on. You can see that on the weekly, for one, we did close below the SMA 20 here, which when we did that last time, very similar setup. You had recently just had the MACD breaking down or about to break down. You've got the MACD just broke down, and we're right below that again, almost the same kind of candle. We did have a little price action above the line in this May 6th week. In this case, all the price action was below the SMA 20. However, for me, I definitely am looking for a possible continuation down if this area cannot break through the SMA 20. So that's personally what I'm watching, and what I can do here is create an alert at this line. Let's say that I don't want necessarily just when the price action gets to this line. Maybe I want to know when it gets anywhere within a specific area. That's when I go in, create this zone rather than just one exact price level, and then you can see how much more that I can capture here. And we don't necessarily always have to wait for the close to be above or at this purple area. We just need the confirmation candle to close in this area. So in this case, let's say that we had an alert last week. We would not have been alerted here if the confirmation candle was the weekly. We would need to go down to the 15-minute candle. So whenever this wick, which was likely one day or maybe a half a day, this would have definitely probably closed in the 15-minute candle, and you would have been alerted intraday even though you have this alert set on the weekly candle. So that's something kind of a food for thought for those who have not utilized the alert system much or tried it out. That's definitely one way that you can use it. We can go and choose the expiration. Let's say we want to go full here, 30 days have passed, or we're going to get the trigger. It's triggered once. You can choose up to 10 times though. I just usually do it once, and then I know it's time to get back to the computer, create the alert, and it's set up on the back end here in the alert list. So anytime any of these conditions start to occur, so let's say we're watching that potential breakout that we were watching on SPY that we created, we can essentially watch these different conditions, and we'll know when they become true when this turns from no to yes. So this is our status page, and you can always check the status of any alerts that you have live. So that is the broad market update into the weekend. We will be doing a webinar as well on Sunday, and we will be going over Bob Desmond's silver trade that he actually went over a couple weeks ago. And I mean, he called that thing to a T. And we're not necessarily doing the video to show you guys, hey, he was right on the trade. We're showing you guys how he utilized the platform to really help him out when monitoring the trade, when setting up his levels to watch, that type of thing. So if you're interested in checking that out, definitely sign up over the weekend. It is on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I will likely be going over some of these charts in more detail. So if you do want to check it out, make sure to sign up. Thank you all so much for listening in. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out at hello@trendspider.com. And we do these videos and webinars almost every weekend, if not every weekend. So make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get updates like these and general overviews of different features to use on the platform weekly. Everyone have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.